Hi, folks, it's Mr. MegaManFan. Like, share, comment, subscribe. You know all the things to do. This package arrived from Japan today, and you might be thinking it's the Sega Genesis 2, but no, in fact, it's actually the Mega Drive Mini 2. This one showed up before the North American version did, so who knows what order they're clearancing things through customs or how that's working these days. But anyway, here's the box opened up, and we will see it inside. Gotta say, it's a very cute box right out of the box. I like the form factor and the colors they chose. I'm sure it reflects how an actual Mega Drive would have been packaged in Japan, but I've never seen nor had a complete in box Mega Drive, so I can only let those of you in the comments section who do tell me how faithful this is, but it certainly seems like they were going for that feel because it's got Mega Drive logos all over it. So other than the necessary compliance information for the region you live in, this is probably true to life to what a Mega Drive would be like in Europe or Japan. As you can see, all of the different games are on the back, some with actual box art. Looks like they're all listed by either whether they're Mega Drive games or CD games, so nice of them to break it up like that. More information about the manufacturer and the different copyrights on the side there. And it says what I believe the contents are here: USB cord, HDMI cord, the Mega Drive Mini itself. You can kind of guess through some of these things even if you don't read or speak Japanese, but now let's get it out of the box and actually take a look at the device itself. It appears to open very simply here, just one tab that I have to pop out. It's nice that I don't have to cut through anything or pull any tape off of it that might damage the box itself, so that's very thoughtful of them. Just a couple of flaps here, and then we have our first item, which appears to be the power cord. Looks like it's pretty standard USB to whatever that other end plug is called. And we've got an HDMI cord here with caps on both ends, plastic caps. So this should be the Mega Drive controller. Yep, that would be it. This time they're actually including a 6-button controller out of the box, which, as I discovered while filming, is a good thing because some of the menu options are mapped to X, Y, and Z, so you definitely need all 6 buttons. There's no getting around it this time. There's no making you buy a 6-button controller later aftermarket. And finally, here is the Mega Drive Mini itself. Everything seems to be well packaged and well presented. So quality is something they've done right with these Sega Minis ever since they took over themselves and stopped licensing it out to third parties. No offense to Act Games, they could produce something that looked like a Genesis, they just couldn't produce something that would run as well as a Genesis. It would be laggy, slow, glitchy. Sometimes the screen orientation would be wrong. You don't have these kind of issues when Sega has taken everything back under their own wing or licensed it out to people like M2 and then manufactured it themselves. But either way, they are doing a much better job with these systems now that they're in charge. And here you see it running, and as you would expect, the menus are in Japanese. And if you leave it alone for long enough, like I did, it goes into an attract mode where it starts showing you a game. And it seems appropriate that the very first game that it shows me on the Mega Drive Mini attract mode is a sumo wrestling game, which I have to assume is not going to be on the US or North American version, just because sumo is not that popular here, and the game is all in Japanese and would not have been localized anyway, so this is one of those region variants that's not going to be the same between one version and the other. But actually, for a sumo game, it looks an awful lot like a Street Fighter game. You can see that guy powered up with a fireball. You can see status bars on the top. You can see them grappling and throwing each other. I feel like this is less of a sumo game and more of a Street Fighter or a Mortal Kombat kind of game, which is perfectly fine with me because I might be able to play it. I mean, the ring outs are going to be the same in a fighting game, whether it's Virtua Fighter or a sumo game. If you go past that line, you lose. So we get the next game in the attract mode, and it's Outrun, which is going to be almost entirely the same no matter what region of the world you live in. US, Japan, Europe, doesn't matter. Outrun is Outrun. It even says push start button in English, which I'm going to assume is probably the case no matter where you live. And Outrun is a fantastic game. You've heard it a million times before on tons of different content creators' channels. I don't need to tell you that Outrun is a classic, that Yu Suzuki made his name with games like Outrun and Hang On. You would know that just from all the different praise heaped on Outrun. So I'm very glad it was included here. Kind of interesting to see the name T. Yano. It makes me think of Toru Yano from New Japan Pro Wrestling, although that's definitely not who it was. Although if it was, he'd probably try to sell you a DVD of all his greatest hits. So that would be funny if he just randomly showed up and started handing you his DVD and then pulled his opponent's shirt up over his head and rammed him into a turnbuckle and did all the goofy shenanigans that Toru Yano is known to do that infuriates the co-host of mine on a pro wrestling podcast because he thinks Japanese wrestling should always be strong style and serious, which he's entitled to that point of view. If everybody had the same point of view, life would be pretty boring, right? But I don't mind a little comedy here and there. Toru Yano doing something like that every now and then is okay with me. These attract modes seem to last about a minute each, and now we've got a new game, Afterburner 2. So they're clearly not going in alphabetical order, or I don't know what the Japanese alphabetical order would be with kanji characters, but you know what I'm trying to say. They're not following the list from top to bottom. It's clearly picking titles in some sort of randomized way and then demoing those titles. So let's get out of the demos and let's actually try something. I've got the 6-button controller hooked up into the USB port. I did notice that the mode button on the top feels a little squirrely, a little loose. It's not super solid in there. And I'm not sure if that's just the way all of these 6-button controllers are manufactured, but it's clicky. Like you're not even clicking it and your finger brushes across it and it makes a noise. So that doesn't seem super great, but maybe 6-button controllers are all like that for Mega Drive Mini 2. So if that's the standard across the board, that's fine. I think Tetsujin, aka Truxton, is a game that a lot of people will recognize, so that's why I chose this one in particular. Although, as per usual, it's kind of hard to play it one-handed, filming and shooting at the same time since I'm not really moving around, so maybe if I back up a little bit, yeah, that works. So, you should be able to play a lot of these games that are shooters or side-scrollers without much trouble if you import it. Although you're going to be frustrated when you get to like the Mega CD games because there were a lot of them that were localized into English for North American release, but because Working Designs was the developer and they hold the copyright on the translation and refused to release it, you're never going to get that, even if this was the North American version, the Genesis Mini 2, because it's just not available. They couldn't put it on here. They couldn't work out the licensing. But you can change the menus to English. If you go into the settings by hitting the X button and go down to the second option, that's languages. And then the second option on the languages menu is English. So select that one and you can change all of the menus on the system from Japanese to English. But it doesn't change the versions. Like, I've already alluded to the fact that games for Mega CD or Genesis CD, the CD-ROM drive attachment, are going to be in English if they're on the North American version, and they're going to be in Japanese if they're on the Mega Drive version. And you'll see that with Popful Mail when I pull it up in a second here. They could have put both versions on there, but they just don't have the rights to the other version, which is weird because it was published by Sega and you would think they would have some sort of say over that, or maybe they could have gone to the effort to localize it themselves without getting somebody like Working Designs involved, but that may have also taken too much time and too much effort and would have delayed it endlessly because there's a lot of English in a lot of these role-playing games. I mean, a lot of stuff that would be translated to English, pardon me. So if they spent multiple years translating every little bit of text in all the role-playing games, this thing would never come out. So my advice would be just play a patched ROM. You own a licensed version of these games if you own the Mega Drive Mini 2. I'm Mr. MegaManFan, and as always, thank you for watching. I'll see you in another video really soon.